Okay, welcome. Are we live? We're good.
We're good here.
Okay, welcome to the Executive Affairs Work Session for July 8th, 2026. We have the Council of Great City Schools with us. This is an extension from last week. You know, we don't normally work during the summer, but after our board retreat, it went so well that the board members there decided to sacrifice our summer to come together to work on our healing. And so with no further ado, Rodney Jordan from the Council of Great City Schools, the floor is yours.
All right. Good afternoon, Vice President Everhart and other members of the board. I appreciate this opportunity to be back with you. Has it just been a week? It's just been a week, and I'm sure all of your students thank you for the service that you all put in throughout the years, and the fact that you all are grinding this summer and demonstrating the importance of your own professional development and your own growth as you advocate for your students and your staff as well. So I'm going to pretty much get going. I think there's some important opportunities today. What I plan to do is to really have a conversation with you, or facilitate you all having a conversation with each others around just how you do your business, how you do the business of in your meetings, and how you do your business together towards being effective as a school board. What we'll do is I share with you all a document. I'm going to bring that document up on the screen momentarily. And what I like to do is to really just focus first on protocols, and we'll just dive in and step through that. Um, just FYI, I may be calling on Madam President or individual board members to kind of speak to some of your processes and how things are being done. Last week, you all completed a survey. I shared with you last week some of those survey results. I shared that again with you yesterday. And one of the things that I think the survey revealed is uh, different people have different perspectives on how you all do some of the things that you do in order to handle your business and do your work. The other thing I'd just like for you to consider as we have this conversation is to support your onboarding process for new members, or for that matter, part of our framework also recommends that the board goes out into the community and shares with the community on a periodic basis just the progress and the work that you're doing. So I will ask for a particular protocol, if there's any way possible that those of you that are online on Zoom, if you can turn your cameras on, that will be helpful, because I think it allows for um, everyone on Zoom and everyone in the boardroom to be able to see you, make contact, and have some positive communication. We've already You already have a good practice of, wherever you are, whether you're in person in the boardroom or whether you're online, raise your hands, use the Zoom tool, or just holler, slow me down if need be, if there's any questions on anything. I do want to restate that this is your work. As a coach, I'm here to support you in the work. You all are the experts of your community. I am not. You know your community, so I will offer some suggestions and some thoughts. But at the end of the day, you know your community. You're going to have to make decisions for yourselves. We will make recommendations and suggestions. Obviously, we have some specifics in our framework that we would recommend, but these decisions are yours and yours to make on behalf of your district and on behalf of your students. And from time to time, there may be things that come up that that you all will discuss that may need further consideration, need review, may need legal review. We'll make note of those, and you'll have every opportunity to have those items reviewed and considered. We will work at your pace. So just wanted to say that, and thank you very much, Board Member Rodriguez, for sharing what your current circumstance is. I'm thankful for that. But before we get started, what I'd like to do is I'm just going to make a statement, and I'd like for you to give some thought to this statement, and then I'm going to ask each of you if you would share what you hear or what your reaction is to this statement. So the statement is board meetings are meetings of the board with the superintendent in the public. They are not meetings of the board with the superintendent for the public. Board meetings are meetings of the board with the superintendent in the public. They are not meetings of the board with the superintendent for the public. So give that some thought, and I would like to hear what your reaction is or are to that statement, that board meetings are meetings of the board with the superintendent in the public. Board meetings are not meetings of the board with the superintendent for the public. So if I'll give you a moment, and if anybody would like to kick us off, please do. This is going to be an interactive session, so I need you all to be engaged. So you can't just sit there and be quiet. You're modeling for your students, so you want your students to be engaged in the room when they're working, and so we're going to try to model that today. So, who would be like to share first when you hear that statement? Board meetings are meetings of the board with the superintendent in the public. Board meetings are not meetings of the board with the superintendent for the public. Madam President, I see you come off mute.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. So
It's no right or wrong. Just want to hear your
I'll take a
reactions.
stab. It just sounds like, board meetings are led by us as board members with the superintendent at that meeting in the public. And so the second part of that, you said board meetings are not meetings with the superintendent for the public. So in contrast, they're not meetings with the superintendent for the public.
So what's the difference from your perspective of in the public versus for the public?
Well, in the public, again, the meetings are spearheaded by the board, and the public are there to listen, right? And so the other part of that, when we talk about not meetings with the superintendent for the public, they're not opportunities or meetings for the public.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else have any thoughts that they like to share?
So I'll say that that's good to know. And I'll also say that I think it is good practice. I think the speaker list is really good too, so that the public can do their opinions at the board meeting. But just maybe letting them know that this is more of a listening session and not a back and forth. So however we need to do that.
I'm Board Member Hawkins, were you going to chime in? Otherwise, I was going to go to Board Member Rodriguez. Okay, go right ahead.
I agree with what both ladies are saying in reference to that. It's like, when you're having a meeting with the public, it's basically, listening, before those decisions are actually really made at some point. And then again, when you're having it with the public, you're engaging into the community. So you get an idea to identify what their problems and solutions are to help us as leaders make the right decisions.
Thank you for sharing. Board Member Rodriguez.
I'm a little challenged by the statement. I think it kind of infers that we get to decide when and when we're not public officers, which we are all the time. At no point do we get to just say, oh, well, this is private. So for me, it kind of challenges my understanding of democracy because at every point where we appear publicly, we are there for the public since we've been elected by the public, is my view.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I don't know. I was hearing more about the meeting and who the meeting is for. Yeah, it is hard to take off your board member hat. I think just that we are elected to be there and make decisions and we're getting our board business done while listening. But it's different than like a town hall or where there would be back and forth. Like this is a board business meeting and we need to take care of business.
Thank you for that. Board Member Bowen, you have anything you like to share on that?
I do not.
Okay. How about you, Dr. Mabinga? Any thoughts you have? Oh, I know you came on, Dr. Mabinga. I don't know if you heard my opening or not, but when I made the statement that board members are meetings of the board with the superintendent in the public. They are not meetings of the board with the superintendent for the public. And I was just asking for any thoughts or reactions to that statement.
I think I don't have a comment at this point. So yeah, just
All
follow
right.
her.
So
Yeah.
so first of all, I appreciate all of the feedback and from comments about the board's business being done. I appreciate the comments about you all are, from a board perspective, you all are elected, and without question, once a board member, always a board member. Members of the community will see you in that light, and that's going to be important and something that we will touch on as we talk a little bit more about your protocols and how you choose to engage with the public. Of course, as part of our coaching and part of our framework, we talk about community listening and community engagement, where the board is very intentional about going out in the community and listening for asking the community questions, listening for what the community's goals are, what the community wants students to know and able to do, and what are the community values. So community engagement and two-way communication is always important, and you are here elected to represent the community. What at the core of the statement, and what I'd like for you to consider just as we continue this conversation, even as we're being live streamed right now, I can't cite off the top of my head the population of the city of Buffalo, but every citizen in Buffalo right now is not watching this meeting. What is happening right now is the governance team, the board, the superintendent, you all are coming together right now as you would in your work sessions, as you would in your business meeting, and you all are about the business of the board. You are representing the community. You are receiving recommendations and presentations from the superintendent and administration. You all are taking votes on behalf of the district, representing the community. But at the key point, or I guess dichotomy, I would make for you of the difference between being in the public, you're a public body, you're dealing with public resources, the public owns the district, and they elect the board to represent them in that ownership. The board hires the superintendent to handle the day-to-day business. The public gets to observe and watch you do the business of the district. They get to watch and observe and learn from presentations that the superintendent is presenting. They get to watch and learn from the engagement and the questions and the back and forth, the constructive back and forth that's happening uh, between the board and superintendent or amongst board members. But this is about, as someone said earlier, this is about the board getting its business done on behalf of the students, the staff, and the community that you represent. This is not um, uh, what's the reality show? This is not a Bravo show of the real lives of school board members of Buffalo. That's not what this is. So the key point that I just want to make there is you all are a professional representative body that's here to do the work of the district. Uh, Obviously, our culture would be that part of that is the board being having a focus on student outcomes, and also the board being able to conduct this business in a uh, productive and effective manner. So, I kind of grew up watching C-SPAN. You can turn on C-SPAN and you can watch government in action, but as an observer, I was not there to participate because I'm not elected to participate. You all are elected to participate. The superintendent is hired to participate, and there's all kinds of things that the board can do um, individually. Is we may describe that a little bit to go and do your political responsibilities of sharing what you're learning and hearing from your constituents just as you would do during a campaign. And then when we talk about the board really doing engagement and listening, it's about the board going out in pairs and doing that. And so individuals that watch your meetings, individuals that attend your meetings, independent individuals that email you about your meetings or prevent or provide comments and commentary, all those individuals are highly valued. But in your pursuit to be representative and hopefully in your pursuit of equity, that you want to try to make sure that the board has some processes of reaching all across the community and making sure that just as you can hear those that come to the microphone, you want to be able to hear those that may not ever be able to make it to the microphone. Just as you want to make sure you have ear for individuals that speak in one language, you want to make sure you have a ear and mechanisms to hear people from all different languages and all different circumstances. But at the key of this, I just want you to, at least for now, for this process, is to uh, take the framework or the perspective that you are doing the people's business in the public, and your primary responsibility right now is to serve the interests of outcomes for students on behalf of the individuals that have elected you or in a upcoming situation may have appointed you. Any questions at all or thoughts on this concept of the community owns the district. You all are elected to represent the community, and that your uh, meetings are meetings of the board that the community gets to watch. In some cases, gets to give input, but ultimately, you are here to do the business of the district on behalf of the community as a whole. Any questions or thoughts or additional comments on that before we move forward? Okay. Well, thank you for doing that. And if you at any point in time you have any questions about that or any additional thoughts, you're you're always welcome. This is your meeting with the superintendent, and I am a guest in the meeting today. So I appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is invite the board to um, have some discussions around some protocol items. I'm going to share my screen, and so I'll just go back to the top. This is just a exercise. This is a working document. The intent for this activity that we'll do today is to just try to foster and support communication around some of the beliefs that the board has and how the board does its work. I'm not going to start with the norms. I'm going to go straight to the protocols because I think for the kind of where you all are right now, there's an opportunity to have some discussions around the protocols. And then as we eventually move into August, something that we've kind of have had on the back burner as we've done this level of the work is I want to try, if at all possible, to spend our time together in August, revisiting your goals and guardrails and having conversations with the board and the superintendent, having conversations together around the work that the superintendent has done, looking at your goals, the work that you all have done collectively around the strategic plan, with the ultimate objective of trying to get into hopefully September, no later than October, of the board and the superintendent together. If there are any adjustments that you all feel need to be made around your goals, or adjustments that I know that the superintendent has looked at around the interim goals, and these are your student outcome focus goals I'm referring to, we'll get to that. But I think it's important right now that we have conversations and you all come to some consensus / agreement around your protocols and how you do your business, so that as we have these deeper conversations, those basics and fundamental ways that the board interacts with each other and with the superintendent and with the district and the community is kind of laid out for you all, and we can focus on the goals. So with that having been said, as I shared with you all in the email, I recognize that you all have bylaws. I recognize you all have protocols. I recognize that you have practices that you currently have. Some you may not be aware of, and some you may not. I just want us, for the most part, to try to kind of have this conversation as though the slate is clean. So you all are the governance team of today, of 2026. There's some things that you all may be doing right now that you feel work well for you, that you would like to continue and uplift. There may be some things that you don't know or haven't considered. There may be some things you want to modify. And so what I'm going to do as we have this conversation, and I want you to forgive me as I kind of chicken scratch here. I will come back later and do all of the grammar and spell check later. But right now, as we are having this conversation and you all are having the conversation with each other, I'm going to do my best to kind of scribe what, or at least highlight what you all are sharing. And then towards the end, just kind of go one by one and see if there's some basic consensus around some of these items. Then I'll take this document back and wordsmith it, spell check it, fill in any blanks that may need to be filled in, and then have this back for you as a working document for you all to continue to move forward. With that having been said, let's just start with developing the board agenda. And I want to say it is intentional that it says the board agenda, because as we just talked about, these are meetings of the board with the superintendent. So this is the board's agenda, obviously influenced and informed by your CEO and your expert, the superintendent, but ultimately this is the board's agenda. So One of the questions I asked in the survey, does anyone know how the board agenda is developed? Got varying responses. So I'm just going to call on President Evans Brown and probably with the support of Dr. Mabinga. Dr. Brown, can you just kind of share with us right now how you in working with the superintendent or you in working with the leadership team, you in working with the board, can you just kind of describe from your perspective how the board's agenda gets developed? And right now we're going to focus on the business meeting, not the work session. This is for the business meeting. How does the board's agenda get set? And I'll pause there and allow you to share.
Wow. Well, okay. So generally, from my perspective and my experience, the agenda has a blueprint. And so it's based on the number of items that come forth, whether it's contracts, whether it's I'm just in my mind thinking what's on that agenda. Contracts, whether they're small or large, it could be, bigger contracts, I'm gonna say in general. Whether it's personnel changes, personnel meaning district generally. That could include new hires, retirees, folks who may be on disability or medical, except all that is then on the agenda. So personnel, and it's broken down into, sections. All of it's not together, but it's broken down in sections. And then if there's resolutions, for example, that's in the other business section, for example. Yeah, so I could come back. I'm just thinking on top of my head what I know that's what's there.
So in that process, so I know you all have a business meeting coming up in July, but let's say that let's go to August. So in developing the agenda for an August business meeting, what does that look like? Does Dr. Mabinga reach out to you? You reach out to Dr. Mabinga? What, just kind of talk through the nitty gritty piece of the formation of it, not so much the content of the agenda, but what are the discussions? How do you all facilitate the development of the agenda?
So I know, I mean, you can chime in, board members, but I know that we have small group sessions with all board members before the actual business meeting. And then there's also a leadership meeting with the superintendent prior to the small group sessions, and all that's predicated on the agenda or in response to what's on that agenda.
Dr. Mabinga, you have anything you like to add or share from your perspective as to the process where it comes to engaging with you and your administration on the development of the board agenda?
Hi, thank you. I think the process that we have here in place, cabinet members will submit items via board doc of items that need to be brought to the board. Then the process again, I think if a board has additional items such as recognitions, resolution, and so forth, that's what the board president or board leadership, they will bring to my attention. Yes, we want to recognize these people. We have a resolution that we'd like to bring forth. And then from that point, then the next layer is where we have the executive session with the board leadership. to be able to discuss those items. And then we have also small meetings with our other board members before everything will be final for the regular board meeting. That's the process we have here.
And generally speaking, if you using my example of preparing for an August business meeting, can you give us a sense of, so how far out do these things take place? I know I've heard at sometimes like the small group sessions prior to the meeting, is that 2 days before or a week before? How far out, if from looking at August, do you all try to have a draft agenda established, or these various processes that are being considered here, like when the cabinet members submit items and the discussions and executive sessions, can you all kind of put in some type of timeline, or how far out you think that generally occurs from working backwards from the meeting occurring to being developed?
Yeah, Rodney, we don't have that process in place.
Okay, okay,
Let me just say for July, we have a board meeting coming up next week on Wednesday. So today is the deadline that cabinet members, they already submitted the materials. We're going to release it for the public today. So
okay,
a week before the regular board meeting.
okay. And
Any adjustment that we may have to make, we'll have to make it by Friday. And then on Monday, that's the time we're gonna have the executive leadership meeting with board. And then after that, we'll have a small session with our board members on Monday.
And then also there's always an opportunity.
let me make sure I get this right. So
Okay.
adjustments are made on the Friday. Monday, is Monday when you have the one-on-one discussion, or the
Small
the
groups.
small groups?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And that's the Monday prior to the meeting, right?
Yes.
Right. 2 days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I do see you, Board Member Rodriguez. I'll be getting to you in a moment. I'm sorry, President Brown, you were
No, I was
saying?
going to say also while we developing the agenda, there's always an opportunity for public comments. So we have a speaker list, and we can have up to 30 people. That's the max.
Board Member Rodriguez, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was going to say for clarity, and I feel like this may have been mentioned, but all board members aren't in the executives or in the small group sessions. For example, I've never attended one because I don't have the privilege to with my work schedule. I do think that they're effective, so that I know they're there, but I think it's important that the public know that the board members who can attend are those who have the ability to attend, and that we're all not in the group sessions at the same time, because that might be a cause of confusion for folks.
Sure. And generally speaking, any of you, so when the small group sessions occur, is there a window like 12 p.m. to 4 p.m.? What does that look like? Or is it just is it the same two members together?
I don't know, because there's not notes that are generated, but they usually email ahead of time and they'll say, Dr. Mubang has been really good about offering 2 sessions throughout the day, so that if people can like drop in later than earlier. So you get an email and there's details about the different time options if you're able to go.
And generally speaking, Dr. Mubinga, are those at the same time on Mondays, or it just varies based upon availability of board members and staff?
Same time on Mondays. That's just been a tradition.
Do you know off the top of your head what the time is?
Yes, we have 12 to 1. That's the executive affair or executive session or leadership. Then we have one, I think is a 1 to 2, then another one, 2 to 3.
3 and 3, 4. 1 to 2. So can I add something?
I'm
It's
listening.
it's my understanding also, like if I forgot something to ask something Monday, I do feel like I can email questions, or if I want to clarify any time between like getting the agenda today, let's say, and then going to the meeting next Wednesday. And prior to these meetings, which the new board members did not experience last year, we did submit questions, and then all board members would see the questions and the answers. So like now, I only know, unless I reach out to people, I only know what the three of us discussed at noon on Monday, for example.
So just for my edification, so I know that through the progress monitoring process that that we encourage specifically around progress monitoring, that the board submit questions in advance, that the administration superintendent gives responses, and that those get posted. So, Board VP Zulik, as you described this process, are you saying this is something that previously existed for any agenda item on the agenda, or was this specific to the monitoring process?
Oh, anything.
Okay, okay. Um, so I'll just kind of open the floor. If any other board members have, based upon what kind of currently exists, does this is this familiar to you? Are there questions that you have about this process as it currently exists or as it has been described thus far?
Rodney, I just wanted to mention something for your notes. Those small group sessions are at 2 o'clock and at 3 o'clock on Monday,
Okay.
Okay.
just for your notes. Yeah.
Okay. 2 p.m. and 3 p.m.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you for that correction. Yeah,
Okay.
appreciate it.
And was that Sydney speaking?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I hard for me to see. Okay. So what's your comfort level? I would specifically maybe kind of hone in on, so the draft agenda is made, and I say draft in the sense that until the board approves the agenda in the meeting, you know, typically it's considered a draft agenda because you all can make adjustments. But so from the draft agenda going out on at least if I understand correctly, a week before the meeting, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when the draft goes out, does that include all of the attachments? Generally speaking, does that include all the attachments? Does it include
Yes,
most of the attachment, perhaps with the exception of the personnel document or something like that?
that's correct. Unless there is an item, for example, today we have a couple items that we're still working with finance. We'll send the board email, say our apologies. There will be one item or two late that we'll be posting, let's say Thursday or something like that.
So from the survey, there at the time of the survey, there seemed to be, maybe there was some lack of clarity or shared understanding around this. Anyone have any questions for President Brown, Dr. Mabinga, anyone around this current process that you have for developing the agenda?
Rodney, it's Sydney again. I just wanted to add something.
Okay.
So Ruth, who is the administrative secretary, she sits in on those small group meetings, and she takes the minutes and posts the questions, and then prints them so that board members can see them as well when we have the small group sessions.
Okay.
Rodney? Hi.
Yes.
Unlike board member Rodriguez as well, I don't have the opportunity to attend the small group sessions because of my work schedule. There's just no possible way. So I'm a little behind the 8 ball.
Again, what I'm trying to do is kind of capture what you all are doing, and also would like to hear if there's some um, suggestions that you may have. Obviously, I have some thoughts, and our framework has some thoughts, but considering that right now in the current process, that at least two members acknowledge that they don't have the benefit due to their work schedule of participating in the small group meetings. What may be a recommendation that you may want to consider? Because ultimately, the ideal situation is that all board members are prepped, ready, have reviewed the material, have asked questions. I have my own thoughts about it. The small group meetings happening only 2 days before the start of the meeting, but any thoughts on how to perhaps ensure that if you're going to have small group meetings to share information or entertain questions from board members, that you can make adjustments so that all board members have access to participating. Any thoughts on that?
Board Member Rodriguez has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please proceed.
Oh, thank you. I was just gonna suggest that possibly like every other month they be on a Wednesday. I'm just thinking selfishly, I have more flexibility on Wednesday because those are our regular board meetings. And I think sometimes just because it's on a Monday in the beginning of the work calendar, it's a little prohibitive. So maybe some flexibility in terms of the day, because I know Dr. Mubenga and the team have already worked on the time.
Any other thoughts or ideas with that?
Yeah, I think last year what we did was we wrote down our questions by Monday, I believe, sent them over and got a response by the regular meeting on that Wednesday.
So you submitted questions on the Monday before or a week
So if
before?
it's on Wednesday, we get it on Wednesday. That following
Okay.
Monday is the Wednesday before the meeting. And
Okay.
so last year we would get the packet on Wednesday, and then by Monday we would have gone through the packet and created questions, emailed them over, and got them back by Wednesday the meeting
Or before,
or before.
and they were posted.
Yep, for all other board members to see.
And I'm
Are
just
there any?
thinking out,
Go ahead.
just thinking out loud. I mean, is this committing 3 hours for the cabinet and the superintendent the best use of their time also? Just occurred to me. Or like, I was like, for example, like, I have a lot of IT questions for an agenda item. So then I had a conversation with the director of IT, and and my question was recorded. You know what I mean? Like, so I got my questions answered in a very like efficient way. And then it's reflected in the question. So the public and my colleagues could see that in the question and answer.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that. No, I'm glad you asked that question because one of my next questions was going to be similar to that. So you said this process pretty much takes about 3 hours from, I guess you're saying, from the 12 o'clock start to the leadership. I guess 3 to 4 hours to the whenever it is that the 3 p.m. meeting ends. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, and then my question to the board members would be, even in the process that was just being described, if you receive the responses on the Wednesday, the day of, how I mean, you also are busy that day. How prepared do you really feel you're able to be if you're just getting, and I don't mean just getting as a negative, I'm just saying just in the current process, if you get responses to questions the day of the meeting where you also are should be prepared to come and take action, or in the case of the monitoring report to do that important work. How prepared, if you all could just be candid about it, I mean, how prepared and effective do you feel you really are when you are receiving answers to your questions? Well, we can talk later about what effective questions are, but as of right now, how prepared do you really feel if you are getting responses to questions the day of the meeting? And Board Member Rodriguez, I see your hand.
I feel reasonably prepared because not a lot of times, but sometimes, not to overgeneralize, Rodney, but people may need up until that moment to give you the answer because things are subjective or they're timely. Like I know with some of the finance stuff, Jim had questions, but he was waiting for some of the other people in the city of Buffalo to get back to them. What I think has been a challenge for me as a freshman board member is just I feel prepared walking into the meeting, and then you have 30 people, sorry, President Evans Brown, I estimate around 30 people who feel really strongly, Rodney, about what we're going to vote on. And sometimes, just speaking for the freshman board members, that may impact the way we view our position. And that timeliness of, okay, people are speaking in front of us, they're crying, they're emotional, how does that impact my decision? And I know other times in past board meetings, like I've tried to talk to board members sitting next to me or been like, oh, well, with this comment, maybe we should think differently. But then I know that also sometimes the public feels offended by that because they feel like we're not paying attention. But it's just like we're processing and responding what they're sharing. So the pre-preparation, I feel good for. It's just me as a freshman board member learning how to deal with the emotion that comes with the public and being prepared to like kind of stay the course despite how strongly people feel about some of the decisions that we have to make.
Appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much. Um, I think I saw others coming off mic where you all have some additional
Yeah,
thoughts.
I was going to say, and to add, I think also, you know, the day of, for example, you get information, and then, some board members still want more information when we sit at the table. So I'm just being transparent that happens also.
Yes. And you'll see on the, if you can see on the screen, you'll see that the third item we're going to get to is obtaining information about agenda items before the meeting. But I appreciate you sharing that because I think that's an important point. For now, any more thoughts just on this area of how the board agenda gets developed? Any questions, any thoughts, any needs that anybody would like to express around the board's preparedness to do whatever is being called upon the board at a business meeting.
So it should be on board docs today, right? It's Wednesday. So is stuff up on board docs now?
No, today is the deadline. I just looked, it's not there yet, so it should be there at some point today.
So is the deadline typically close of business? Is it midnight, 11:59? What kind of, generally speaking, because there's always things that come up, but generally speaking, what time on the Wednesday prior should the board expect? Does the board currently expect the agenda to be posted and available?
11:59 p.m.
Well, it fluctuates. Sometimes it's in the morning. And I think to speak to Dr. Mubenga's point, it's a matter of all the cabinet members getting all their information and sometimes waiting on answers themselves in order to get it over. But it seems like for the most part, it's sent, I guess, before 5 on Fridays and I mean on Wednesdays. And then usually if they have something later to add, they'll say, as Dr. Mubenga said, forgive me for sending this late. Just added something to board docs, and then we'll get that little notice from board docs that something was added.
Board Member Rodriguez.
Yeah, I was gonna add to VP Everhart that sometimes I think I've observed that the team will send an email when it's been uploaded, as well as getting those automated emails. And for me, when I see that email, I'm like, okay, Dr. Mubang and the team have everything up to the best of their ability. That prevents us from having to constantly check back to board docs. So I do really appreciate that extra effort and that step. So I was just gonna add that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other thoughts on that? I want to try to get to some of these other items. Anything else that you like to share? And again, I'm going to take these notes and then I'm going to kind of write these up, and then I'm going to also do uh, some best practices as well for you all to consider as you move forward. But any other questions about the board's agenda development?
I think my question, which kind of goes into your next point, is are you saying that the board is supposed to be responsible for creating the agenda? Because I'm looking at last month's agenda and I'm trying to look at a place where that would be possible. We have about 31 items, and then some of them have A, B, C, or D, or just a few. And so some of them have all the way through Q. And so I'm just trying to figure out, aside from the items that the cabinet and Dr. Mubanga put on because they needed to be voted on for contract reasons or let's see, money, things like that.
What my point is that so clearly, as you just described, the superintendent administration, they know, you know, when the special education plan needs to be voted on, or when something else is required, or when they need you all to take action on certain contracts in order for them to do their work. So this is not to suggest that the board is operating separate from the superintendent. That's by no means. You all are working collaboratively.
Got
But
it.
what I am saying is that ultimately, as the board hears these things, for example, um, you know, something could be brought forward for consideration, let's say in August, and you all are having a conversation. The board could, in working with the superintendent, say, hey, we've got a lot of items right now. Is this immediate? Is this something that we can put on the September agenda? So there is that back and forth. The real point I want to try to make sure I'm emphasizing is not for the superintendent to go off and in a vacuum decide the board's agenda, no more than the board should be in the business of telling the superintendent how to do an agenda for his meeting. So that's the point. Yeah.
I get that, but I think I'm looking for more direction in the fact that out of these 31 items, what spot would you say the board would or should contribute to in order for it to meet the criteria that the agenda belongs to the board?
Well, all of them. I mean, ultimately, the board has worked with the superintendent. You all have a draft that's coming out. And then when the board opens up the meeting, the board approves the agenda for that meeting. So the board is making the decision that these are the things we're going to deal with, take action on, receive information on for that meeting.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking you, Rodney, is so let's say personnel affairs, right? There's nothing that a board member would put on personnel affairs that would be different from what the district would put on it. We just don't have that type of knowledge, right?
Correct.
Okay, so something like, I don't know.
Well, let's transition. Let's take this as an opportunity to transition to the next item. So one of the things that was mentioned earlier was board resolutions. Okay, so let's talk about. This is something that I'm learning this. So let's talk about board resolutions. So these are what? These are actions, recommendations that the board puts together or collective board members put together. Let's talk about it in the context of how items from the board get placed on the agenda. And let's start with resolutions, since That's something that I observed, and that's something that was mentioned earlier. So can someone kind of explain the board resolution process?
But isn't that part of the board function to create policy?
Boards do act on policy.
I mean,
I'm
create
asking.
or act? Because act is
Well,
what we think that the
well,
district would do. Create is something to where you come up with this resolution and then it's amended into policy.
well. That's my question to you. My question is, when the board comes up with resolutions, what does that look like? What is that content? Because generally speaking, let's just use the example of a policy. Uh, there's a process that we would recommend for the board to consider around a policy diet. But generally speaking, if the board wanted to change a policy or create a new policy, I don't know if you have a policy. I don't know what your process is, but through that process, ideally, the board would have drafted something, had some conversations about it, shared it with the superintendent. The administration would have some opportunity to weigh in and make recommendations to you. Obviously, it goes through, hopefully would go through legal review. So I'm kind of asking you to kind of explain what it how do you all currently use board resolutions? I've seen where you've done board resolutions to acknowledge members of the community. I've seen where you've done resolutions for special honorary activities or events and so forth. But you tell me, how does you have a new member coming on in a month?
So what comes to my mind?
Mhm,
So what comes
mhm.
to my mind is the policy that Board Member Hawkins and Wright did about the 514. And so now when that is amended,
So I don't say that to me. I don't know what
okay,
514
what
means.
comes to
So
mind when you ask that is the policy that Board Member Hawkins and Board Member Wright came up with to honor the people
oh,
who
that's
were
right.
for 514, right? And
Hmm.
so that would be amended into policy. And now within our schools, that day it would be acted out by the district to where some type of memorial or remembrance in each school would happen. So that is kind of my idea of what we do with resolutions amended into policy, to where the board kind of creates the resolution, turns into a policy amended, and then it is acted out by the district as kind of like new rule.
And then
And
to
when
add,
oh, mhm.
and then to add what Vice President Everhart is saying, the resolution is introduced to all board members before it hits that table. And, Dr. Mabinga gets a copy, and so everybody can chime in with edit modifications and or co-sponsorship of that resolution.
So using what we just discussed before, where um, the administration currently provides a draft of the agenda at least a week ahead of time. When you all have resolutions, can you kind of timeline it? What is there a requirement that says that the resolution has to be introduced 30 days prior to action? Is there
There's a
something around
policy.
that
I can
process?
look it up real
Okay,
quick. So there is a
okay,
policy for
The
resolution.
timeline.
okay.
Rodney, I had my hand
Yes,
raised.
ma'am.
Not sure
Yes,
if you
ma'am. Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to go back to your original question. So, the resolutions I feel like are used to represent the values of the individual districts, and like to VP Everhart's point, the observation of 514, which was a very violent episode for us, was really important for me. Right now, I have a resolution in draft, and as a board member, what I did is I emailed my board colleagues to give them a heads up, and I was like, "Hey, this is something I'm interested in doing. is anyone interested in supporting? And I got an immediate response, but also your question I think is very timely. When I was putting together the draft resolution, I was thinking, how much lead time should I ask or should I allow for? And then also to other prior points, because part of the draft resolution at this point impacts board meetings. My thought was, okay, how do I get this done without creating more work for the district? So I think that's the idea that you were mentioning, is the exchange between the board members giving those resolutions in good time and our district and the superintendent being able to give us feedback and say whether or not what we're hoping to do is plausible and it would create an undue administrative burden.
Thank you for sharing that. And I guess generally it's understood, and don't mean to put words in your mouth, but when a resolution is going through the process, depending upon what's being considered, it could be something that happens in 30 days, or it could be something that happens over several months, just depending upon
Right.
the nature of it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What else besides board resolutions does the board members have questions about or have thoughts about in terms of items that get placed on the meeting agenda?
Yes. How do you have things on the agenda removed?
So can you give, for example, so if so let's go back. So earlier, there's this process by which that was spelled out where an agenda is drafted. You all have small group discussions. And then eventually the meeting agenda gets posted. So can you speak a little bit more? Are you saying taking something, deferring something? Or are you talking about completely eliminating something? Can you give me more feedback on what you
Yeah,
mean
well,
about?
basically, it's taking it off the agenda because we need more time to, gather the information before we make a clear-cut decision on something. So how would you, defer it or, get it removed off the agenda for, this session?
So is the request around, um, are you asking if the individual board member feels that they need more time to take action? How does that get communicated? How does that get communicated, and ultimately can it then be deferred? I'll turn to board leadership. If if an item has gone through the process and the agenda has been posted, and a board member or board members feels that there still needs to be additional time, how do you all what's your process for that? Or do you have a process for that?
We don't have a process, but it has been done. If board members, for example, like Hawkins acts, are adamant about a particular item, then they would call, leadership and inquire about it. There's discussion made. We talk with then the superintendent about it if it warrants to that level. And then we have had opportunities where things have been tabled.
I think I was observing one meeting and there was a request for a deferral, and the feedback from the administration was that because of the timeliness and the impact on the day-to-day operations of the district, the superintendent requested that the board maintain that item on the agenda for board consideration and action. So, Board Member Hawkins, any reaction to um, differentiating between? I'll ask it another way. How could you benefit, or how could the board benefit if items that are coming up for board action, if they were known to you prior to a week in advance. Would that be beneficial to you to have, if you need additional feedback? Do you feel pressure within the 1 week in the current schedule of trying to get your questions addressed? Or is it that maybe the questions that you have may go deeper into the administrative work than, and that's what's driving the request for removal? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I just think that certain things, when it comes to really making I mean, well, every decision that we make is important for these students. So certain things, I feel that we don't have enough time as board members to thoroughly process them and come out with a clear-cut decision. You know, sometimes the candidates say, well, we got to make a decision on it today, but we just got it 2-3 days ago, you know, but they've been had it. They've been had it. So I don't think that it's fair enough for us as a whole, as a board, to really, you know, try to be rushed into making those decisions, you know, and then sometimes it might not be the right decision. You know, how can we thoroughly have enough time to make proper decisions, you know, for our students, you know, in reference to something getting placed in the agenda, and we got 2-3 days to, you know, really thoroughly process it, research it, you know, go over it so we can have a clear-cut decision as a whole, rather than 48 hours, we got to make a decision now on this. But we just got privy to this information 48 hours ago, to where, you know, hey, cabinet member might had this on the plate for months now. You know, so I just don't think that it's fair enough for the board to really make certain decisions right away when we don't have enough time to really thoroughly process.
Well, I appreciate this, and if with you all permission, I like to kind of use this as an opportunity to talk about your work session agenda. I have seen where some governance teams, some boards, so at a work session, they may put items on the work session. Let's say the superintendent knows that, almost like you all do for the budget, but I don't want to go budget wise, but let's just say that there's something that may require that the superintendent is recommending for the board to do. I've seen some of your work sessions where you all get presentations on various items. There are some boards that they'll use the work session or a series of work sessions as information sessions, information and Q&A sessions, so that before an item is a controversial item or item of significance, whatever appropriate terminology you want to use, an item that requires more deliberation and understanding, whatever that may go through a couple of work sessions where you can have time to kind of peel the onion back a little bit, within certain parameters, ideally, before it gets placed on the business meeting where you're going to take action. So that by the time you get to a business meeting, you may have heard a presentation at a work session or 2 or 3, depending upon the situation is. You've had the opportunity for Q&A. You've had opportunity for, you know, discussion and deliberation at the board level. Then you may get to the point where that item then is sufficient to be placed on the consent agenda, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Or at least if it's still going to be on the board's discussion agenda at a business meeting, you've had that opportunity 30 days, 60 days, whatever it may have been, time-wise, to delve into that item so you don't find yourself in a situation where the board may feel that additional time is needed because you have built in that time through your work session. So having said that, do you all kind of use your work sessions as, in some ways, as preparation for the board and the superintendent have an opportunity to discuss and communicate a recommendation, so that by the time it gets on the agenda for the business meeting, there's been, quote, ample time for discussion? Is that how you all use your work sessions, or not?
No, historically they've been used as presentations.
presentations, but not necessarily presentations in anticipation of board action?
No, correct. You're correct.
Okay,
Not
uh,
intentional, at least,
right.
but it probably would make sense.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Do you all see some benefit in terms of aligned with what Board Member Hawkins has raised, an opportunity to work session it? I'm making up a verb, to work session it, so that there's consensus or understanding from the board, so that by the time you get to the business meeting, you're there to take action. The work
Yeah.
session is the opportunity for deliberation and discussion. The board meeting is time for the board to take action.
Yeah, but
But that
yes.
that would be
Well-
putting Dr. Mubenga and the cabinet in the position to get the agenda over to us at least a week earlier, because as you can see, our last work session is the exact day that we get the agenda.
Well,
Right.
right. So for right now, the slate is clean. So I'm just generally asking
Yeah, but
from
that's still 48 hours. We do the work session on that Monday. So
no. What I forget your current practice. What I'm asking generally is, do you think that there could be some benefit for your work sessions to be used as opportunities for discussion and deliberation of an item to arrive at consensus before that item? Again, sometimes these things are going to be time sensitive, but generally speaking, use your work session as a deliberation and prep session for your board meeting. And I don't mean the same week. So for example, we're doing a work session right now in July. We
Right.
could be discussing in this work session, you could be discussing this work session in July around something that the superintendent knows he wants to bring to you in September. It doesn't have to be next week. It can be far enough
Or,
scheduled.
okay, and what you're also saying is it doesn't have to be the full agenda. It could just be an item that Dr. Mubenga is aware he wants to put on the agenda at some point. Oh, I get what you're saying, because today is Wednesday. Today is the last work session of the week of the month before the meeting. And so
Yes, so
this would be the day that we have to decide that if we were to
yeah,
work session it. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So, for example, I'm thinking the code of conduct was long. It was whatever, 30 pages. That maybe in June, we can think like that makes sense, or May or whatever. Like we know the code of conduct is going to come up annually. So just plan ahead for that. So it's maybe something we could talk through. I don't know if everybody had the opportunity to read it. I did and was able to submit, some amendments, and they were honored.
Yep.
So that works for me, but I think sometimes us discussing it together is productive too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and even when you submitted that late edition, Adriana, they still took the time to go and redo it and submit it and have it done by that night, which was great.
They did, yeah. And I just want to say at 4:57, we did get a notification, and it
I
is
saw that.
live, our agenda.
Our
So
agenda
that
is
is
live.
up.
Yeah, I actually wanted to chime in on that. So, most of the time, on 2 points actually. So most of the time, the meeting will go live by the latest 6, but most of the time by 5 on that Wednesday before. And then also to speak to Rodney's last point, my example, I just had a conversation with the CFO about several budgets that have to get approved. So, to speak to the point, like if you know that there's a budget that's coming up, he would be willing to present to the board in a work session what's going to be, the budget items that will be coming up, so that you're aware when those budget items come up, what they're about, and it can ask questions ahead of time.
Finance is probably most aligned. And then I don't want to go back, but resolutions, to me, I would love to take a holistic look at our policy, which is going to be going on 8 years old. It's a little piecemeal, but it is kind of like our personal thing, where the way I'm envisioning amending policy is like we're all at the table and it's like it's the board's policy.
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
looking through the policy both online, and then I even went over to the education law book, and I do not see resolutions anywhere.
Well, so we'll right. So what I like to do is I want y'all to hold there. I want to give Board Member Rodriguez an opportunity to weigh in, and then I'd like for Dr. Babinga to add his thoughts um, to the concept of whether it's work sessions or multiple readings or consideration. I just like for him to add his thoughts into this discussion. So, Board Member Rodriguez.
Yeah, I was going to answer a couple of your questions. So,
Okay.
as a freshman board member, I've had people look at me who are my constituents and be like, well, you're really quiet during the board meetings. But to everyone's point, it's because I've either asked my questions prior or they've been answered, or some of my other colleagues I know who are very inquisitive and show leadership will ask those questions. But it is confusing for my constituents because they see me as a quiet person, which they know is not a reflection of like my actual personality. In the work sessions, I do ask more questions and I try to demonstrate my personal values in my public service in the way that I respond and in the way that I ask questions. So because I'm new to the district, people can get a sense of who I am to anticipate how I might respond to other things in the future. In terms of modifying the resolution policy, I'm definitely open to updating all policies, but I do feel that we have such limited discretion as board members. Like the way that I understand it, I can't honor someone in my office on my own. I can't recognize a principal on my own. So for me, the resolutions are really the only time I have the ability to lift up my neighborhood's values and the things that are important to my constituents directly in that way where it's like more public. So I just want to go back to the dichotomy between the way people understand our processes when they see them played out versus the way that they like see other legislative bodies like the council members and stuff, because like people feel that I'm quiet and I think that's kind of starting to scare me. But I also am very respectful of the fact, as VP Everhart and others have mentioned, that we have up to like item Q on different agenda items, and I really don't want to take time to pontificate. So there is a good balance between the work sessions and the board meetings, but just our constituents, they're not always aware of the background work that we do.
Can I just ask Board Member Rodriguez, Sydney, is that true that we can't honor or recognize individual members as an individual board member? Because I was under the impression that we could. I don't know if you noticed yet, Sydney. Maybe Dr. Evans Brown, or if Ruth is there.
Well, let me say this. I think that what you can do, and all of this is about the effective use of your time. And so I made note where Board Member Rodriguez talked about, so you see other bodies, they'll do constituent service through their meetings. Yeah, I know when I visit my local General Assembly at the state level, they'll have resolutions that they'll get to pass and all that kind of stuff. And all that's important because folks want to be responsive to the community, and every elected official wants to look good. You all have a responsibility, frankly, that as a board and in your governance that few other, if any other, elected body has. You all are dealing with 50,000, 60,000 children and staff. I mean, you all are really running a multi-billion dollar, you're governing a multi-billion dollar organization, and the superintendent is responsible. So as you consider whether or not how to best use your time, there may be opportunities, and this is something that you all can discuss as a team, to integrate some more of these types of ceremonial activities, while at the same time keep your meetings effective and efficient. I made note of that, and I think that's something, as was mentioned earlier, when you all have an opportunity to kind of revisit that resolution policy and kind of go through the policy diet that we would recommend that you consider, I think that's something that would be a good time for you all to have that discussion. Forgive me, I'm just kind of pushing through for time's sake. Dr. Mabinga, what are your thoughts on your experiences, your background, your thoughts on the use of work sessions, or even as you already do with your 2x2 meetings or one-on-one meetings to prepare board members in advance for an action you may be requesting that the board take on behalf of the district?
All right, thank you, Rodney. I'm just gonna say 3 points here. The first one, I'm completely in agreement when it comes to work session to be the prep for business meeting. That's what I'm used to. When you prep really well, by the time you come to business meeting, that's why you're gonna put a lot of those items in consent, because the board pretty much they were well prepared and they feel comfortable. They say, okay, you can put this in consent. And then there are times where there may be controversial items. Board may feel comfortable and say, yes, we agree, but I just removing from consent so that we can discuss this in public so that they can all see. So work session for prep for business. That's what I'm used to. And then also when we're talking about work sessions, that's the time where we're gonna have to do a lot of work when it comes to policies. If we have policies that are 8 years old, and that's why sometimes we're discussing, do we have the right to do this resolution or not? I think the policy is going to dictate everything that we really want to do. And the board has the power to put a twist there that if they want to have individual resolutions and all that, they can include those in the policies. So just my 2 cents there, in agreement. Work sessions, they may have been tradition here, but across the nation, a lot of places they use that for prep for
Yes.
business meeting. And then if we have to look at the policies that we have not looked at them 8 years ago, that's the work that's going to take a year or two to make sure that we have really good foundation, good base that we'll be able to conduct our business. So completely in agreement. But I'll say one last thing about small meetings. I think based on what I was really preview when I came in, while we're doing those small meetings, because they have been in the past, probably some meetings will go till 11 or midnight. The reason of having those small meetings so that our board members will be able to have a good clarity about the items and be able to ask those questions. That's why they had those small meetings. But at the same time, if we were using work sessions to be able to address those items, we may have not been having the needs for having those small meetings.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That is what I've observed, and I think if you get an opportunity to read some of the best practices around that, to use work sessions in that way. Of course, one of the things that that we recommend in our framework is that the board develop a, for your goals and your guardrails, we recommend that you develop a monitoring calendar that extends the length of your goals and guardrails. So if you have 5-year goals and guardrails, you have a 5-year monitoring calendar that the superintendent will put together, and the board will literally know for the next 36 to 60 months what's going to be monitored and when it comes to your progress monitoring. Likewise, the board can develop a board calendar so that, let's just say if the year started in July, you all could put together a calendar, and you would know on that calendar, because with the superintendent's help, we're going to vote on, I just, use the same examples. We're going to vote on the budget here. We're going to vote on the special ed plan here. We need to vote on the code of conduct by this point in time. And so now with that calendar, the board is aware, the public is aware, the administration is aware. And when the superintendent and the leadership team, the superintendent board are now doing agenda planning, that stuff is laid out and mapped out for you. And to me, I think that's what I hear Dr. Mabinga describing that, and I won't put words in your mouth, so I'll ask in the form of a question. Dr. Mabinga, you believe that if the board was willing to look at revamping the work sessions, that you could do a few things. You could continue the monitoring process, but you also could leverage it to make sure that the board is better prepped for action, going back to Board Member Hawkins' original question that he raised.
I agree.
Okay. All right.
To add to that, Rodney, I do love Dr. Mubenga's overview on that. And as work sessions, it's not the whole board there. You got 3 members at a time on there. So I may
You mean
ask a question
You
during
mean
the
the
work
small
session.
meetings? You mean the
Yeah.
small meetings? The
Yeah,
work
in the
session
small
is
meeting. So
everybody.
so if I ask a question in the work session, I feel that every board member should be able to hear that response at some point, because that may, shed light or give them, clarity on, what decision that they need to make in regards to that. So again, how do we take it from consent agenda to being tabled on the actual agenda?
Yeah. No, I have a whole thing I want to send you all on the consent agenda. I've sent you all some notes, and I think that I think your current process that you all are using opens the door up for, I'll say it this way. I think work sessions, as Dr. Mabinga has described, can better prepare the board so that when items get placed on the consent agenda, the board already has developed a consensus and understanding around those items. So you can then be in a position to vote on those consent agendas as a block. If there are items, as Dr. Mabinga mentioned, this, excuse me, that still require additional board discussion, they would go in the discussion agenda and the board could have at it. President Brown?
Yes, I just wanted to note, because Dr. Mabenga is not giving himself full credit, he also holds individual board sessions with individual board members throughout the month, just so you know.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I think that's a superintendent best practice. But I also just keeping in mind is something that Vice President Zulich raised earlier, that all the time that the superintendent, Dr. Bingham, may be spending with the board in one-on-ones and small group meetings, I'm not suggesting those aren't important. But if you're able to come up with a work session in a process where it's the board as a whole, that may be time then that gets freed up for him to continue his work with his staff, onboarding his staff, coaching his staff, visiting principals, and all the other responsibilities that he has to do as a superintendent. So as you all consider this, do keep that in mind, that every minute that the superintendent is spending with the board, good, bad, or indifferent, is time that he may be able to spend with students or in the classroom or in the buildings or attending to like whatever emergency may have popped up today. I think this has been a good. Good. Sure, go ahead.
Just before you move on, just for that policy, that point that you have policy updates and process, board opportunities for tweaking policy. I just want to ask Dr. Evans Brown or Dr. Mbenga, if you know, what is the role of BOCES in our policy creation? Because I heard something last year about it.
All right, thank you. I'll take that question. I think the way the policies works here, NICED, the Department of Education, they work on policies, they push it down to BOCES. And then from the BOCES, then BOCES spread it through all the 19 districts that we have in BOCES 1. So once we get any revision that is happening at the state level and national level, BOCES will be fully aware of that. Then they push it down to the district. And then the district is going to look at what our current policies are and then be able to adjust it with whatever new law that comes in.
Got it. Thank you, Dr. Mbenga.
Yeah, again, whatever the state bring down the BOCES, that can be something really generic, but the board has the authority also to put their own twist to make it a little bit Buffalonian. They can
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had asked a similar question of Sydney, and she shared that with me because it's not unusual for boards to, like in your case, you're using BOCES, others may use the state association. They will provide you with kind of like the template model policy to make sure that your policies can be updated to code. So if the state changes something as of July 1, I'm sure BOCES reviews it, sends it down to the administration, and then they can use that to update the policy. But at the end of the day, as Dr. Babinga just said, there may be policies or tweaks or adjustments that you all want to make that's needed or true for your community. And that would be that opportunity to do that. And moving forward, as we talk about the policy diet, and it'll be a good opportunity for the board as a whole to really delve into that policy process. Any other thoughts?
BOCES with a C, Rodney, not an S.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's say it again. BOCE.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. So I think this was well, I'll ask you, has this been helpful for you all to have this conversation around these topics, placing items on the agenda, developing the agenda? Is there any other main questions or concerns or recommendations? Because this is at the part of the core of your work is improving student outcomes, but on the House side, how the board does its business, the agenda is essential and crucial.
Rodney, sorry, this is Sydney. I just wanted to circle back to board member Everhart's question about board recognition. There is an agenda item for board recognition. So if the board wishes to recognize someone, that is part of that is an agenda item.
Okay,
Yes.
Sydney, is it individual? So let's say not the full 9 board, but maybe like an individual board member, like board member Rodriguez. Maybe she wants to recognize a teacher in her district who's doing well in front of that that school, so would it be okay for her to do that individually? I think that's kind of what she was getting to.
I'll check, but when I inquired, I'm pretty sure that the answer would be yes, because that's for the board. I don't know if it has to be as a whole. I'll double check again, but I'm almost positive it would be, and it could be an individual basis.
Okay, and just while you're here, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Rodney, this has nothing to do with what we're doing. Sydney, when you do that, can you also make sure that you send over the documents that board members would be able to present? Like if there's a what am I thinking? Like letterhead and like a document with like a seal on it. So that way we know, just officially, so we know where to get that from. Thank you, Sydney. Sorry, Rodney.
No, you're fine. My question, my request of the board would be, before you all go too far down that path, let's make sure that you all have consensus around your core pieces, because I think that as you get an opportunity to talk some more about your policy process and about your time use and other things, I think you all may find even more effective ways of doing some of these constituent services. And the other thing, I'll just take a moment to remind you.
Can I just say right quick, Rodney? I know, I'm sorry. Just before you move on from that little point, I really think it would save us time in meetings if individual board members are able to go to the schools, individual schools or districts where they want to present a recognition. It would save us time in the board meeting, because then that individual board member will go to that school and have that time at that time, instead of it being taken.
I hear you. I will also suggest, just the reason why I'm saying I think you all should have further discussion on it, because just as I raised earlier about the board being mindful of the time that it engages with the superintendent, you also want to be mindful of the time that you are engaging with principals, building, and staff. And so that balance is important. So you may end up creating opportunities.
I will say, I'm sorry, I know, I get it. But I will say that I personally only go when I'm invited. That's it. And then I have seen invites come through for individual board members to different events. And I think it would be so cool if they can also take like a plaque or, something like that. So they do reach out to request. So it should be an already planned event that they have already, built out time out of their schedules for, not us going and saying, hey, can you throw us a party so I can, give you a plaque.
Yeah. Whatever process you all decide on, if you decide to do something like that, this process that we're going through right now is, I would just encourage you all to have that discussion, write it out, write it down, and then have this, consideration of, especially if it's going to be around something that's going to align with your goals and guardrails, but just keep in mind of your time and your staff's time. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we're about 20 minutes in this meeting, and so I think we've had a pretty good conversation around information about agenda items before the meeting, even though much of that occurred in the top of the agenda. What I would like to give some attention to, got a lot of stuff we still need to do.
I almost blurted out. I'm glad I was Mike. I was gonna say responding to media requests. That would be a good one.
I think that's important, and then I also think that responding to staff or community comments at board meetings. But to the vice president's request, let's talk about your media protocols. So what do you all do now?
Hold on, let me go get my popcorn. No, I'm joking.
No, seriously. If after a recent meeting, I had stuff showing up on my Instagram feed from Buffalo that I'd never seen before. So what's your current, do you have some current understood protocols? Does the board right now understand the media makes a phone call? The media calls the superintendent. Superintendent generally is the spokesperson for the district. Superintendent may speak. Superintendent may have a communications person or a spokesperson that addresses what's the position of the school district. What happens when the media calls individual board members or wants the board's feedback on something? What's you all's current process as you understand it?
I was taught to direct them to the president, and as a sophomore board member, that is what I thought we were supposed to do. Okay. And even if it's something that, I know Dr. Evans Brown, wouldn't mind, like a radio show at WUFO where we're talking about something that's not really hot topic, but that's something that, people want to know about the board or get to know the board, something like that. I still defer to Dr. Evans Brown and say, hey, this person reached out to me, and then see what she thinks on that.
Okay. Board Member Rodriguez, I see your hand.
Yeah, Rodney, thank you. I just want to center on the value that you've talked about of clearing the slate. So I'm just going to talk about my experience. I started having media reached out to me as soon as I was a board member elect. So it actually goes a little bit further than that. And normally, as a reflection of my neighborhood and personal values, I never respond. And I, as VP Everhart alluded, asked the media person to contact Dr. Evans Brown and or directly the superintendent. I am also a member of the media. So in, I think, 2019, I started writing for the local Latino papers. And I have a biannual column. And in that regard, I have personally sought to support the community papers, but specifically not use that column for a voice for this position, even though I've been encouraged to, because I don't want to create that confusion. As a board member, I tell people our president speaks for us. And as an individual person, I do write and contribute to the community media. So it's a kind of fine line. But I know that it's kind of handled uh, individually by board members as a reflection of their character.
And I would probably piggyback on board member Rodriguez. Me, I am media. I don't know if everybody knows that, but I am media. I have colleagues everywhere. But you know, again, I get phone calls, but again, I don't talk about stuff, especially if we have confidentiality clauses. It just seems that board members do whatever they want to do when it comes to the media and disregard board leadership. And I think that if any board member is contacted, they should report to board leadership, and then that board leadership should approve that Pacific board member on speaking with media. We have media here at board meetings. Now, if they want to say something while the news are here, because we provide media for board members at these meetings. If they want to have at it here. But if you get contacted on a Tuesday, then board leadership should know about that. They should not be hearing about stuff in papers, and especially when it's aiming at board leadership. So what precedent do we set in regards of board members just outlandishly speaking out to the public about, things concerning the Board of Education? So I think it need to be some sort of protocol or some precedent or a policy put in place so that can't happen. I don't know what the policy is. I've been here for 6 months. I don't know what the policy is when it comes to that, but it's to me freely that people are doing media stuff. Last week, we had board members.
Well, I want you to focus on, where
I'm
we
just
are.
saying,
Okay,
I'm just keeping it all the way what it is, and it's that much of importance for board members to be interviewing with the news than being work sessions. So it need to be some sort of precedent set in that regard. And obviously, we don't have everybody here today, but that's another topic. So going forward, it needs to be some sort of precedent for anybody going to the media as a board member. The board leadership should be notified and they should come to some sort of approval. It's 3 of them. So if 2 out of the 3 agrees, then it should be an issue of them going to any type of news media or social media platform to speak on board business. At least the board leadership is aware and not blindsided at that point.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Board member Wright, what are your thoughts right now? You're on mute. Come on off.
I have a question for you, Rodney. So is there a difference between when you say speaking to media, are you referring to, like, say if I have a personal thought or a problem with a subject matter and I speak to the media in regards to how I feel about something, as whereas, speaking about, criticizing the board leadership and talking for the whole board, is there a difference in that?
Yes, and that's why I wanted to raise this. That is not unusual, as has been identified thus far. The board may have specific protocols that, generally speaking, the president is seen as the spokesperson for the board. The superintendent, we know, is the superintendent for the district. It's not unusual that the president may receive inquiries and defer those inquiries to the superintendent, or the superintendent or the staff may get a call and say, well, why did the board vote that way? Superintendent's job isn't to try to interpret why the board took the action. That's where the board has the opportunity to speak. And generally, most organizations, most boards will designate the president to be that spokesperson or the president's designee. There are also conversations that you all can have, and I would say you need to have. What happens if a media asks you as an individual a question? And so there are protocols where teams may adopt something to the effect of, the board voted in favor of the budget. I was not on the winning side of that vote. But now that the vote has been taken, I'm going to support the actions of the board, because really, going back to what we talked about earlier, in your work sessions and in your business meeting, when there's opportunity for debate and discussion, that gives board members an opportunity to share their perspective. I'm board member Jordan. I don't support this recommendation for XYZ. Here are my reasons why. So as part of that deliberation, as part of that discussion with your colleagues, you have the opportunity to express that. And then once the vote is taken, then the board as a whole has spoken. So the board has decided 7-2, 7-0, 9-0, 9-8-1, whatever the vote is, the will of the board is the will of the board. And so then in these types of protocols, what is often then said, the expectation is that board members in their individual comments will express their support for the will of the board, or if the individual board member is speaking, that the board member is specifically knows to say, these are my personal perspective. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. So those are ways that I have seen these types of protocols get addressed, but I wanted to raise these because I want to know, do you all first have agreement and consensus, which it sounds like you may, around the president is the spokesperson for the board, and the president has the responsibility then to defer, delegate, whatever the case may be, get agreement and discussion around that, and then we can come back and talk about what your thoughts on if you are receiving inquiry and you are seeking to speak as an individual board member. So Board Member Rodriguez,
Yeah,
floor is yours.
I just wanted to add, in my view, not only is the board president our voice, but she has earned that position. And I think that that is something that sometimes is overlooked. So I just wanted to say, it's not by accident that she's the president and that she's earned the ability to speak for us, and she has my absolute confidence.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So just right now, does anybody have any objection to, or is everybody clear around the board president being the spokesperson for the board?
Rodney, may I add, I thank you all
Yes.
for your confidence in your president. I do want to say that since I've been on the board and this is only my second year as the president, as a board member, we respected the fact that the president was the spokesperson, right? Whoever was the president, that's what we did. We respected that position. And if board members have individual comments, they're allowed to do that. You're talking as an individual, but you don't speak for the board, right? And that's the problem. When you speak for the board, it's out of disrespect to the president
And the board leadership.
and the board leader. I'm just going to just put it out there, and that's all I'm going to say. But nobody really speaks for the board unless, like you said, it's myself and or a designee.
Right. And I think that's important because to distinguish between the board president and board leadership, because when you say board leadership, that can get confused. But if it's clear that the board president is the spokesperson, and if the board president wants to designate, let's say the board president is busy, or the board president feels that another board member may be able to offer something, whatever the reason is, the board president then is asking whether it's a vice president or any other member of the board to speak on behalf of the board. Then the board president will do that. And if the board president does designate, then hopefully the board president will also let the full board know, I have asked board member ABC to speak on this because, for whatever reason, or because I'm busy or I have work to do, whatever the case may be.
Rodney, can I?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say, I was surprised, impressed. We had a robust conversation around a certain agenda item. And I just happened to see an interview, and a colleague voted their way, and it did pass still. And they were able to move forward. They had an opportunity where maybe they could have complained about it. But at that whole, the will of the board, And we can vote, but then it is what it is, once we move forward after the meeting. So I thought that was very gracious, in a way. Can I ask a question? Can I like pivot?
Sure.
And I don't know if this is a Monday question, but so we're not going to see you until we have already seated a new board member for the North District, the
You mean
vacancy.
me? You mean me,
Yes.
Rodney?
Yes,
Okay,
you,
okay.
Rodney.
Okay, all right.
I'm just wondering, is this a resolution kind of thing, or is this something we're going to talk through at our special meeting? I'm
Well,
just,
can we table that? Because I think that, so I know at the last meeting, you all had a timeline. And one of the things that we aren't going to get to now that I think is important that you're raising is how the board communicates with each other. So I do know that you all have it at a timeline. If there's questions about your process related to the appointment, I think that's something that you pick up the phone, call the president, and you can get some clarity around and whatever additional communication that came out of your meeting. I think this is a perfect example for you all to do, as I asked in the survey, how do you like to be communicated with? So if it's by phone, by email, one-on-one, I think that's something that you all can handle, and we can kind of close the loop on where we are for this particular session, on these topics of responding to the media, if that works for you.
yeah.
What call me? One thing. Let me go back to Dr. Mabinga for one moment before we leave this. Dr. Mabinga, I think you have a communications team. Obviously, as a superintendent, you're well trained in this. Can you just kind of share in some of the time that we have left, how, as the superintendent, or how your administration handles inquiries from the district, and how you may handle inquiries that may come to you to the board, or how your communication staff may or may not be available to support the president or whoever may be speaking on behalf of the board?
All right, thank you, Rodney. Any inquiry from media that's come to BPS, definitely I'm the spokesperson for whatever topics. But there may be a time where I may not be available. I'll be able to designate a person to be able to speak on the behalf of the district. I may also be available. There may be a topic, let's say, in the field of operation or maybe finance that I don't feel really comfortable to speak. I may delegate that to one of my cabinet members to do that. As far board is concerned, anytime there is an item that I feel like it's not directed toward administration, it's directed toward the board. We will get in touch with the board president, and the board president will be able to work with her when it comes to legal matters or techniques. When it comes to communication, we'll be able to massage the communication or the statement that need to be released. That has been our protocol. We go to the board president, or if it's just administration, we'll be able to release something, making sure that we also reserve a copy to our board that there's going to be something in the media, or maybe speaking in the media. Board, here's your heads up before he gets out there. So that's been our practice.
Anyone have any questions at all for Dr. Mabinga as far as that process, the support that's available, how he works to make sure that if something is happening, a statement is going out, that the board president or the board as a whole is informed? Any questions for Dr. Mabinga at all? Board Member Rodriguez.
I would just say that I think Dr. Mubang has done a great job tackling the immediate items that he had when he came in as a leader. Dr. Mubanga knows me well enough to know that this is an interest area of mine. And I look forward to kind of working with him and Jeff, who's our communications person, to look into the future, because there's just been so much in our news cycle, Rodney, since even my time as a freshman board member. And I think that one of the things that I'm really excited about that we've been doing well is highlighting the good things that are happening, the stakeholders and the teachers. And I really think for like my generation of caretakers, the media is a huge way that we can continue to earn their confidence and share with them the good things that are going on. So it's an area that I'm really excited about. But we just have had so much come up in the cycle just since my short time. It's a lot to manage. And Jeff is really available, to Jeff's credit, and as is Dr. Mubanga, when I have asked for support in those areas.
Well,
Thank you, Board
appreciate
Member Rodriguez. Let me make just a quick comment as
Of course,
well.
Dr. Mubanga.
I came
Mm-hmm.
from North Carolina, a district about our size. I had about 5 persons in my communication department. And I've seen sometimes where really my communication person, Jeff, really struggle with multiple demands. So I think we are getting to a good place where we have one person left. We are going to replace that person. We really wanted to hire a person in the caliber when Jeff is absent, at least we can have that person be the spokesperson for the district as well.
Can I shout out something or one word? Can I like have one of the last words? So media, our Buffalo Public Schools media was not there, but I know Dr. Mubanga did give an interview. But yesterday there was an awesome event for the Say Yes Buffalo summer camp kickoff. So Dr. Mubanga, Dr. Evans Brown, Mr. Scott, and myself were there, and partners. So Buffalo Public Schools collaborates with and supports these camps. So we have almost 1,700 students that are getting math and English and science and cooking and fun and breakfast and lunch. And I just think it's a wonderful thing. And I kind of wish we had someone there taking a picture. Maybe we could just borrow one and throw it up on our website. But there's a lot of good stuff going on out there. I just wanted to lift that up.
Well, thank you for that. And I just want to say to right now to VP Everhart, it's 6 o'clock. And I think this has been a very important and robust discussion. Something that I know that came up in the May retreat that I think is important for you all to continue to have conversation around is this item of use of social media, what some protocols are around that. And hopefully through this process, you all are not only exercising your muscles of communication, but also hope that your confidence in me is also growing. And what I would like to ask your consent, I would like to take what we did discuss, and as I said, I will write those up and then also add some best practices around it for you to consider. And then in some of these other areas, I'd be more than willing to share some best practices so that then you all could just use that as a basis for continuing this conversation and discussion, ultimately with the goal of you all being clear on what your protocols are in all these different areas. And there may be some other areas as you take a deeper look that you think that you all need to have some conversation around. You can feel free to add that. But what I would like to do is to take this, what you have shared, write that up, also take some best practices and write that up and share that back with you all for ultimately getting to the point where I think you all should adopt formally a set of norms and protocols that hopefully every board member will sign, and you can get to the point you can hang it up in your boardroom or wherever outside the clerk's office, whatever it may be, so that there's clear to the board, clear to the public, clear to new members, clear to administration. This is how the board intends to interact with one another. Doesn't mean that people won't make mistakes along the way. We're all going to make mistakes. But this type of exercise, and I think this type of communication and collaboration that you all are having really changes you from being what's the other? I started with the board having meetings with the superintendent in the public, and then I want to end with the board being a board that is individuals who have come together and are governing as a whole, not a collective of individual board members. And so with that, I will look for feedback, whether it's from you, Vice President Everhart, or from the president, on how you all would like for me to proceed. But I just want to thank you all for putting this time in again and for being willing to continue this important work. I think you all have modeled extremely well. Your staff are out there doing professional development over the summer and preparing to do things, and I think it's great for the board and the superintendent to be doing likewise. I think you all are setting a great model for the district, and all of this is on tape, and the community has an opportunity to also have watched you work. If you notice, you all were just so focused on the work. You were just focused on the work. That's what it means for the board to have meetings in the public and being focused on your work. So those are my closing comments.
Thank you, Rodney.
Rodney,
Thank you, Rodney.
it's 200 and it's over 270,000 people here in Buffalo. Just want to let you know that.
Thank you.
And many of us know.
Quiz me on that next time. One thing for sure, I will say 250,000 plus. I'll promise you that.
There you go.
Well, that concludes our executive affairs work session. Thank you so much, fellow board members, for sacrificing a little bit of your summer to focus on our healing, mending, and growing. Thank you, Dr. Mubanga, for your expertise as a seasoned superintendent, giving all of your good advice. And thank you, Rodney, for leading us through this process.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you in August, right?
Yep.
Yes.
See you soon.
Okay.
See you then.
And one day in August, I'm gonna get there in person, so we'll be able to all be